You're listening to Oilersnation Radio, presented by the Nation Network. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Welcome, everybody, to Oilersnation Radio, episode 80. We are here. We are on FaceTime. We are socially distant podcasting. We've got Yaremchuk. What are you eating right now?
Taquitos.
Taquitos from when?
I made them in an air fryer.
And for the record, you did schedule this whole thing. You told us 1 p.m.
You just finished off a bowl of ramen noodles, too.
Yeah, I had a big-ass bowl of ramen as well. I had to do some running around because it's my dad's birthday tonight and my girlfriend's birthday tomorrow. So I had to stop at the liquor store, stop at Walmart quickly to pick her something up. So I was running a little late, so I was quickly trying to make a lunch.
Well, that's a nutritious lunch you got for yourself, pal. Some taquitos and ramen. We've got Tyler snacking away because he's a growing young man. We've got Rick checking in from his apartment. We've got Dan lounging.
Yep.
Dan is in...
I'm in bed.
I like that you're wearing an Oilers jersey right now, Dan.
Yeah. It's, what did they call it on Twitter? Jersey Day in Canada or something?
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Is it?
Yeah, apparently. It's supposed to be a thing. We're all sad because the season ends tomorrow, technically.
Like, yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about that for a second.
Could you imagine?
Since today is, I'm just learning this right now, Jersey Day in Canada, we had a hypothetical on Oilers Nation's Twitter the other day about jerseys.
I think
first, I want to... Yeah, it did. It was interesting to see people's different answers. First, I want to thank Sherwood Ford the Giant out in beautiful Sherwood Park, Alberta. They are still open. They are also offering some payment relief if you have a Ford vehicle and you need to skip a few payments. Sherwood Ford has got the options for you. You can check in with them on Twitter at Sherwood Ford and on Instagram at SherwoodFord_the Giant. Getting back to the jerseys, the hypothetical that we put out on Oilers Nation's Twitter, which is Oilers Nation HQ, was if you were going to get a jersey today. Today is April 3rd, 2020. Which jersey would you get? Dan, what are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing my old Steelhammer jersey that I got when we had our Swedes visiting last year.
If you don't know the story about the jersey, Dan, please run through it real quick.
Yeah, so there was 23 Germans or Swedes that came and visited, and there was one little guy on the trip, Axel Steelhammer, which is just the absolute best rock star name I've ever heard in my life. And his dream when he came to Edmonton was to play for the Boston Bruins, but by the time he left Edmonton, he wanted to be an Edmonton Oiler. So I told him I would be the first person to own an Axel Steelhammer jersey, so I'm wearing my Axel Steelhammer jersey.
Is he good? Could he actually make the NHL?
It was like a week after he arrived back in Sweden, and he sent us a video of himself attaching a string to a puck and the other end to his tooth. So he's tough as balls as it is, at age 8. So I think he's got the toughness down. He just has to work on the skating and the shooting. I'm
just saying, you kind of put a lot of pressure on the kid, Dan.
I did. It's a high bar set for him. And you know what? People, when I go to Oilers games, if anybody remembers doing that, and people see me wearing a Steelhammer jersey, they always make a lot of jokes about how they don't remember a guy named Steelhammer.
Well,
it's a Jujar jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess there are some jokes there.
Okay. Tyler coming in with a joke that normally we would make that you would get angry about.
Quarantine has changed Tyler.
Back to the question at hand. Gentlemen, Rick and Tyler, I want to start with you guys because you have a lot of jerseys, both of you. So if you were going to get one today, Tyler Yaremchuk, first of all, run kind of through who you've got.
Yeah.
And then who you would get if you were to pick one person today on April 30th or April 3rd, 2020.
So right now in my collection, I have a orange Darnell Nurse jersey, but it's autographed. I wanted it like an auction, so I don't wear that one. I got a blue Leon behind that. I have an orange McDavid from the 16-17 run. I have a white Puljujärvi from his first season in the league. Yeah, that one stings a little. Then I just have a blank orange one and a blank black one from the All-Star game in San Jose. So I think next in line for me is getting another white one. I saw Rick in Calgary rocking a white Yamamoto, and that might be where I go. But I'll throw in this caveat. If they release those vintage whites that they're talking about maybe bringing back as like an alternate next season, whenever next season happens, I think a McDavid alternate white would be pretty slick. So I think that's where I'll go. If they don't release that alternate white, I might go with like a Yamamoto regular white one.
Also, Tyler, you'll remember that Rick was wearing the white Yamamoto in Vegas, and he mustarded the shit out of that thing.
Early, that was fast, too. That was the first hot dog. First of many, too.
I forgot about that nonsense.
Yeah, I got home, and that scene is gone.
Yeah, Mrs. Talboy came through in the clutch with exactly what you needed to get that mustard stain up.
Yeah, and I had this little dabber over here already in this. Tell you what, boy, you would never even notice.
Tyler mentioned the potential new jersey that's coming out. Cam Lewis wrote about it at Oilersnation.com. It's an interesting look. It kind of goes back more to a WHA kind of vibe to it. It's got more orange on the white. I like it. I hope they do something. Then again, I wrote, what would you do Wednesday, Monday, or whatever the fuck day it was. And you know what jersey also gets a lot of love? It's the Todd McFarlane one.
Ooh.
You don't like that one?
I love it.
No, your Remchuk doesn't like it.
Tyler booed it.
Yeah, no, to me, I think people love it because it's really ugly. Like, if the Oilers never wore that,
Jesus.
If the Oilers never wore that and then released it this summer, everyone would be like, this is the stupidest fucking thing ever. Like, to me, the Oilers have the best logo in sports. It's fucking iconic. It's classic. They have the best color scheme going in sports. I love the royal blue and orange. I don't mind this new combination of orange and blue either. I just wouldn't fuck with it. Like, I don't.
Do you really believe that about our jersey? About our logo?
Yeah, I honestly think it's like the best logo in sports.
Wow.
It's,
I
love it, man. It's sick.
I think if you remove the fact that you're an Oilers fan, as I try to do, because I agree, like, I do like the Oilers logo, but I think the rest of the league looks at our logo and is just like, blah.
Really? I think the Oilers logo, like my Oilers bias definitely makes me say it's the best, but I think if you were to honestly rank the logos in the NHL, the Oilers are top 5 in a lot of people's opinion. I think you get like the Habs and the Blackhawks and the Red Wings up there because they're like, you know, that iconic original 6 level, the Rangers as well. But as far as like non-original 6 teams, I don't know very many that have a better logo than the Oilers.
And when you get those colors working properly, that logo really bounces out.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm looking right now. I have the program in front of me from Game 1 in 16-17. Like, these jerseys were the best. Like, that logo pops on there so well.
Oh, that's crazy.
Looking at the, speaking of logos, just bear with me as I find it. The NHL Player Poll came out. So, as voted by the players, bear with me here. By the way, Best Bromance and Connor and Leon weren't even included in there. I don't know anything about them personally, but give me a fucking break.
Boo.
Dynamic duo, they got to be in there.
Well, the romance of Kachuk and Doughty being listed was just as good, though.
Well, that one I actually thought was funny because it was just like they do not like each other, and
They
Drew
fucking
Doughty is
hate each other.
very vocal about it. So I actually really appreciated that one. Added a little bit of humor into it. So we got, it looks like the Blackhawks were voted as the top jersey, top uniform by the players with 28.25%. Hard to argue. The Blackhawks jersey is great. The colors, everything's solid on those. Vegas Golden Knights were the only newer team that were included in the top 4. And then to round out the top 4 was the Leafs and the Rangers. So Oilers not on there. However, I do appreciate Tyler's bias. For me, I like the idea of the Todd McFarlane one just because it's different. If they're going to come out with
to be though, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And if they're going to come out with a different jersey, it'd be nice to have something different, even if they only wore it a handful of games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because even the third jersey now is just a little bit different in color, but otherwise it's still the same damn thing. This was a third jersey. This is completely different. That was the whole point of it.
Yeah, it was a complete departure away from the circular logo. It was a departure away from the orange. It was everything that.
At least it wasn't
didn't have.
And at least it wasn't the chopped off head of a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not donkey.
The Flames, I mean, we can all agree the Flames have horrible jerseys and colors. Like, I couldn't imagine just wearing a blazing red jersey anywhere. It's awful.
This was pointed out to me yesterday. So I guess the Rams' new logo is being skewered because it has a penis that shows up in it.
You haven't seen the Flames one yet?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that this negative space of the Flames jersey, same thing.
Yeah. You haven't seen that?
Oh, I have. I've seen the Flames. I don't see it in the Rams logo myself.
Okay.
But yeah, the Flames for sure.
I love showing people the Flames
look
on.
Look at a jersey and not look at the negatives and not look at all the things that come out, right? But here we are.
I actually haven't seen this, so if you guys could DM me a picture, I would love to make fun of this because I need something to do. Back to the question at hand, Rick, you've got a lot of jerseys as well.
Yep.
First of all, run through the collection a little bit, and number 2, which jersey would you get today if you were picking one?
See, I've got a bunch of the older ones still too. I think I've got a Gretzky, a Messier, Grant Pierce signed. I think that's it from back then. But then jumping up until now, I still have the like a '96 Doug Weight in the white. That happens to be probably one of my favorite jerseys of all time right now. Still, you dip into today's closet. I think I have a nameless one. There's definitely there's a nameless, but it's signed by Connor. I got that one signed in his first year. I got it around Christmas time. And then I've got the Yamamoto. I have a Ference. I have a Nuge.
You have a Ference?
Damn right. I picked up an Andrew Ference to start the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Oh yeah, no, I had to. You gotta support the team even from square one. So I jumped on it early.
Man, you wear that thing in Rogers Place now, and that is a unicorn.
It really is. I may have to break it out if we ever get a season back here.
Unbelievable. So if you're picking up one today, you're also one of the first people I know that got both a Bear and a Yamamoto.
Yeah, I picked up Bear early in the year, and then now I've got Yam right around Christmas time when I was really starting to pump his tires. If I went for it now, I think I'd have to go back and get one of the really good ones. So it'd have to be an actual Connor. It'd have to be an actual Leon.
Nation Dan just sent me this Rams logo. That's definitely a dick on his head.
They fucked up so bad.
Wait till you get the Flames one.
That is so weird, man. Like, you know what the weird thing about it is too, is that this went through a team of people and they were just like, that's the thing we're going to go with. Unbelievable. Oh yeah, the Flames one. Okay. Now Nation Dan is texting me all kinds of dick related drawings. And, yeah, all it's missing is the testes, you might say, on the Flames one.
It's how we got the Mooterus in Dallas. It's all those beautiful logo faux pas where you're right. You go through. You have to. That these teams are all bureaucracies, and so it starts at the bottom. It starts in the design team, and it works its way up the chain. And everybody's like, "Yep, good to go. Yep, good to go." Nobody sees the dick on the forehead.
That's so good. That Rams one is bananas.
It's just, I think it's one of those things that gets like over focus grouped, right? Where like you have a bunch of like design majors and all these people who are like doing market research into what's trending well, and they just totally blank on like the sports and like nostalgic aspect of a logo. Because all the Rams really had to do was go back to their vintage logo, and everyone would have been super stoked about it. But you like over focus group this whole thing and like totally 2020 think this thing like galaxy brain type of shit, and you end up with that. Yeah,
I mean, you could have just put a picture of a ram on there and probably been fine too, you know? Anyway, back to the original topic. Nation Dan, you're up. What jerseys do you have? Which one would you get if you were getting one today?
Well, I'm a thick boy, and in the past, I've never really thought about it this way. But I've kind of gone with smallish players, and it doesn't really fit my mold. I have a Grant Fuhr jersey. I've got a Nugent Hopkins jersey. I've got that's a Nugent Hopkins in the blue, the royal blue that came out there. I've got a Sam Gagner pajama jersey, the one with the half pipes on the arms.
Those are the worst Oilers jerseys ever, by the way.
Easily. But when you're out representing the team in fucking Habs and Leaf land, you just buy whatever they're wearing at the time.
Was this when you worked in Halifax?
It's when I lived in Halifax. Yeah. Did you know? I lived in Halifax. But yeah, so I think right now, if I was to get a jersey, and I do hope that there's a third jersey next year that doesn't have the same issues that this year's third jersey does. Does everybody else notice the creasing of the numbers as a big issue with this year's third jersey from the Oilers?
It's because they're like single twilled or whatever, right? All the other Oilers jerseys have like the 2 layers. So they're like nice and thick, and they're kind of, when you get them properly crested, like they are crested on that jersey nicely and they don't fold. These ones are the single twill, one thing of orange. And I think that creates some problems.
So that's why I've avoided buying this one, because I do really like this third jersey. So I hope next year they do have a nice WHA kind of throwback jersey. And I think I'm probably going to get a Zach Kassian.
Ooh. I like it.
I can get behind that.
Go with a little bit of a pugilist, a little bit of a bigger boy. So I kind of fit into the jersey as opposed to being a big man wearing a Nugent Hopkins or a Sam Gagner.
Just for me to round this out, I've already said it. When Ryan Nugent Hopkins, he's the only jersey I've got, by the way. I have one Oilers jersey. It is the orange from the playoff year. It is a Nugent Hopkins. When he signs a contract extension, I will buy the 3 remaining flavors of Ryan Nugent Hopkins jerseys. I'm going to get all of them. And
like that.
That's going to be my power play. So I'm going to drop a G on jerseys, basically.
You're going to do your part to pay his contract.
Exactly, because he is my dude. By the way, speaking of Ryan Nugent Hopkins, if you haven't seen it, yesterday I posted a quick hit on Oilersnation.com. He did a very, very kind gesture for an 85-year-old fan that is having a hard time during this kind of quarantine life. He's an older gentleman that loves hockey. He's got dementia, and he had some of his group activities canceled because you can't hang out with people. And his daughter put out a call to action on Twitter, maybe hoping that some folks would send some pictures and letters and stuff just as a means of brightening his spirits. And Ryan Nugent Hopkins made a personalized video for him, as well as ATB sending a signed Nuge jersey over there. So check that out at Oilers Nation. Great deed. A little bit of positivity. I was super pumped when somebody sent that to me yesterday.
He got the jersey this morning as well.
Did he?
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and update my story then. Thank you for that, Dan, because I just thought, you know what? We're bombarded by shitty news, and that was just kind of something nice to brighten the day, I thought.
Yeah, I agree, man.
Before we move away from jerseys, Dan inspired me. One last question real quick. Best Oilers jersey of all time in terms of style or look. And then second question, what is the worst? What is the worst Oilers jersey? Tyler, what do you think?
The worst Oilers jersey, hey?
Yep.
Oh man, like there's a part of me that really needs to double down and say the McFarland jersey here. So
stick with the argument.
Yeah, so probably that one. Like I was never a massive fan of the copper and blues that they wore in like the early 2000s up until like 07 or whatever. I didn't like the red being thrown in there. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. But no, you know what? I'm going to say the fucking Reebok era ones with the copper and the blue and the piping. Like those ones were just, they didn't even look like jerseys. As we've all joked, they looked like fucking pajamas. So I'm going to say that era of jerseys.
And the best?
The best are the ones they wore in 16-17 during that playoff run. I think those oranges were just fucking perfect, man. I loved that shade of orange. I loved that it had a lot of royal blue on the jersey. Like there was thick piping on the bottom of it. The shoulders were nice and big. The helmets they wore were blue as well. The elbows had thick blue piping. So it was just a nice mix and sort of nice blend of the vintage colors that stand out so well and a bit of a modern design that I really wish the Oilers would have kept those around and made those the jerseys they rocked for the next 5 to 10 years or whatever. I loved the numbers on the shoulders as well. I thought that was a great sort of unique touch as well.
Rick, your thoughts, best and worst?
I think the worst, you have to go way, way back, and you just get to those really ugly ones, probably between right around the time of the WHA before they came into the NHL. So if you look at like the classic, the history of the Oilers jerseys, the ones usually near the beginning, I really was never a big fan of those. But you know what? Like I said before, those white ones in the Doug Wade era, I think those ones are still up there with my favorites.
Nation Dan, the best and worst.
I think the worst, and I do believe that there's a way to have fixed those jerseys, but I think Tyler's right. It's the pajama party ones where they had the copper stripe on the sleeve. I think if you had made that copper stripe like the old oil drop was on the navy blue jerseys in the 06 run, I think you would have had a different kind of story there. It would have been a little bit more, it would have popped a little bit more. It wouldn't have felt so lazy and bland. But yeah, that's my worst. And then my best, I think I disagree with Tyler. and I say the '06 Cup run jerseys, that navy blue with the copper that actually feels like oil. It looks like oil. The copper threads that are shiny and shimmery. It was a good look. So my '06 playoff run jerseys.
My worst, I'm going to say the copper and blue with the red. I wasn't really a big fan of those. The white in those were solid. I like the oil derrick guy on the shoulders. Those were kind of cool. But like I could do without the red on those. And for me, the best ones, my all-time favorite Oilers jersey is the classic, the blue body, orange shoulders. Rick, are you okay? Are you surviving?
I'm good.
So those are my classics. Those are just the blue body, orange shoulders. That look is super fresh. I kind of wish that the Oilers would go back to that one as opposed to the orange, but that's just me. That takes us to Tyler, the Sherwood Ford Giant question of the week.
Giant.
The Sherwood Ford Giant question of the week here. Let me pull it up on my Instagram. You know, there's been a lot of the classic games being replayed, and I've watched a few, not the whole game, but bits and pieces or just the third period. So my question is, would you rather watch, if you had to pick one to watch in its entirety, an old classic game where you know the outcome, but you know it's, Rick, I'm going to come over there.
Mute Rick. Rick, yeah. There's a mute button.
Okay, so if you had to watch the entirety of the game, would you rather watch an old classic game where you know the outcome? Like, let's say Game 6 of the '06 run against Detroit, or a game where Connor McDavid, like this year, where he put up 6 points against the Avs, like one of those? Or would you rather watch an old random game where you don't know the outcome? Let's say it's a game that the Oilers played in the 90s and you don't know what's going to happen, or maybe a game from 2012 where you don't exactly know what's going to happen. Something like that, right? Where the element of surprise is still kind of there for you. So that's the Sherwood Ford Giant question.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If it's a game from 2012, chances are we know what happens. There's probably a big L hanging on the board.
That was a bad example.
Anything from the Aikens era, we probably have an idea of how it ended. Nation Dan, what do you think?
It's a good question. I would say I'm probably going to go with a classic game where I know the outcome, because it's one of those things that I think even if you know the outcome, you still are surprised by some of the subtleties of the structure of the game. You know that Fernando Pisani scores shorthanded in overtime, that kind of thing. But you don't see all the plays leading up to that. You've only seen the highlights for the last 8 years, kind of thing. That was good math, Dan. But you know what I mean. Like you don't see the entirety of the game. I hate that they're doing the replays of old games and then shortening them, because you're removing some of the minutia that you lose over time, right? So yeah, I would say the old games, because you don't remember every little bit about the old game.
Along those lines, Dan, Leon Draisaitl in his conference call was asked if he's been watching any of the old games, and he watched the game against the Sharks. That was on Sportsnet. We were live tweeting that one from the Nation. That was when Desharnais wins it in OT.
Oh,
and his opinion was that it's a little bit of a tease. And I could understand what he was saying, right? It's like, fuck, man, we should be doing that right now. That's a conversation for another day. Rick, would you rather watch a classic where you don't know the outcome or something where you do?
I think I have something that I do. If I'm watching that, I'm watching for a reason. There's a lot of games out there that still go watch. So yeah, and there's a lot of bad games back in the day anyway. So I think I'm going to be watching a game for a reason. So I'm picking the one where I do know what happens.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. I would be annoyed. I find myself getting annoyed if there's a game on where I know the Oilers lose. It would just piss me off to sit there for 2 hours and be like, oh, they lost again. Fuck. Tyler, this is your question. You're the last answer.
I think like watching that game against San Jose where Desharnais scored, it was fun. And I could do that a few times, but there was a game on last week on Sportsnet, and it was just a game. It was the game where like Sundin scored his 500th goal, and it was Flames and Leafs. And I had no clue what was going to happen. So I started watching that one with like 12 minutes to go in the third, and then watched it right through to overtime. And I was like really, really entertained. I think I was more entertained than watching just some old game from, the 90s where I know that the Oilers are going to win or lose in overtime or whatever. Because, like, every scoring chance, I was kind of, like, back on the edge of my seat being like, oh, shit, is this it? Is this where the game's ended? There was, like, some penalty calls in that game that were pretty controversial as well. So, I don't know. I think I kind of like the element of surprise. And as we keep going on and I miss sports more and more and more, I kind of crave that element of surprise a little bit and the not knowing aspect of watching sports. So I think I'm actually going to say a random game where you maybe don't know what's going to happen.
You might have just changed my answer.
Well, no, that's just it, though, because I remember watching that Desharnais game, and a lot of things happened that I even forgot happened.
Yeah, but
it kind of was. Like, I kind of knew it was happening, but then there's, like, little surprises there, too. And, yeah, I was the same thing. I was getting jacked up. I was sitting at home. I was getting excited watching that game.
I was getting excited watching that game, too. I was lucky enough to be in the building for that one. So it was interesting for me to see it from how it looked on TV.
Yeah.
But I think Tyler might have changed my answer here. Because I actually remember that Sundin game. That was just a Saturday night game. I remember watching that with my dad when it actually happened. So it's kind of interesting. If you were to, now I'm going to add on to the Sherwood 4 Giant question of the week. If you were to pick one game where you did know the outcome to watch again, do you have one in mind that you would want to watch?
Mine would probably be the Oilers and Red Wings Game 6 in 2006, because that was such a cool series to watch the Oilers change their style of play and everything. That I think yeah, that would probably, just off the top of my head, yeah, that would be the one for sure.
Mac T with the systems.
Yep.
Oh, buddy.
Go to the trap.
Rick, I see you. I can see you're pondering this question. You're looking off in the distance.
There's some really good options out there, man. Like that 2006 run, Game 6 against Detroit. That's one you'll never forget. Just that goal, that first time in 5-6 years that we had been in the playoffs, and now and it wasn't a team like Dallas that was, just the mouse versus the giant. We were actually, we weren't like, we were ranked bad, but that team, if you saw it, they had a chance and they went out there and beat them. That was really fun to watch. But maybe one of the newer ones, something with Connor. I don't know, man. That 17 run, that was pretty fun too. It stopped short, but it was pretty fun to watch.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of great memories from that one too. Just being at the Pint and just having that place packed, and like it seems like 100 years ago. Now we're not even allowed to have more than groups of 10 or something, and that place was rammed. Oh, yeah. Even Surveyor Brett tweeted me today a video of the high five line from Vegas, and that was a month ago. A month and change ago, like crazy. Tyler, if you could pick any one game to watch over again, do you have one in mind?
I love the Game 6 against Detroit answer. I think that's tremendous because that game was completely bonkers. I've actually gone back and rewatched most of that game, and it is really entertaining. But my answer, I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. From the 16-17 playoff run, Game 6 against the Anaheim Ducks, the Leon hat trick. Like, just remember watching that game. You're nervous as all fucking hell. Game 6, second round, and they not just to win, but to light up the Ducks like that was so much fun. So I'd love to go back and relive that one.
I was also lucky enough to be in the building for that one as well. And
that was
fun fact about
right?
that.
Yeah,
I was there too.
Fun fact about that one, I caught Mark Letestu's one of his 3-star hats that they throw out after the game, because I chucked, unlike the Squire, and I hope he does listen to this at some point, I will always throw my hat. I threw my favorite hat for Draisaitl's hat trick that night, and it was replaced by Mark Letestu. I also got to try one of the smelling salts from the bench. The trainer threw one of those over the glass to me, so that was a big, big day for Bagnall. Big day. I'm also going to go off the board a little bit with my pick, just because not necessarily the game itself, though it was a lot of fun to watch, but the experience and the whole memory of the day for me is when we went to Winnipeg for the Heritage Classic. Everything from the alumni game the day before to the 2-hour sun delay where Christy Intern and I just got completely buckled because we had 2 hours to kill, to the 3-0 win and Mark Letestu's huge goal, starting to chant with his name at the Pint Winnipeg after the game. It was just, the people of Winnipeg were great. They appreciated us all driving in from Edmonton because, of course, they don't have an airport. And it was just like, on a personal level, a very cool game to be at. So I guess that would be my pick. A little bit off the board there, but that's what I'm going with.
Okay, if you ever want to watch a fun game that has nothing to do with the Oilers, go back and watch the mid-'90s, any of the playoffs of the Wings and Avalanche. It's not really about the hockey. It's more about the between the whistles and all the fighting back then. After that Chris Draper hit from behind, that was a fun series to watch for a couple of years.
Those Red Wings Avalanche series in the 90s were the best. There were goalie fights. There was hatred. I remember Claude Lemieux was just pissing everybody off. It was the best. Speaking of the best, I want to go ahead and thank our friends at skipthedishes.ca for making all of this possible. I know that they are very, very busy right now with delivering food all over the place. What I would encourage you to do if you were listening to this podcast is go to skipthedishes.ca, pick something local, support a local restaurant, help them out a little bit if you can. There's a lot of really good deals on there, including free delivery for a lot of places at skipthedishes.ca. So go there, grab yourself something to eat, shop local, support a local establishment, and do whatever you can to help out another person during these very, very strange days. Skipthedishes.ca.
And make sure you're tipping.
Yeah, tip the drivers. Tip the drivers as well.
Apparently with this contactless delivery, tips have gone down. And I understand the desire to not want to tip. But remember, those drivers are doing
what? Who's not tipping
for us?
You got to tip.
They're putting their lives on the line a little bit as well too. They're touching a lot of doorknobs or doorbells and all that. Like they're handling a lot of food, going into a lot of businesses. So I think they deserve a little bit of respect.
Absolutely. Ooh. Skip the dishes. Put some respect on their name.
Yeah, do we have a button for that? There it is.
I thought we were talking about Taylor Hall for a second.
Put some respect on Taylor Hall's name. Tyler liked that one. Tyler's a big fan of that one. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the NHL Player Poll did come out in this past week. I wrote about it on the 31st. I don't know what day that was, to be honest. I don't really know what day it is right now. So I want to go through a couple of things, a couple of the answers. Oilers all over this year's version in one way or another, whether we're talking about current Oilers, former friends, or the building, I guess. The Rogers Place also got a little bit of love. So any surprise, I want to start off with the man himself. Any surprise, Connor McDavid voted best forward and not close. 68.35% of the votes. Next up in second place was Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon at 6.65, Nikita Kucherov at 2.88. Anybody surprised with Connor running away with this one?
I was surprised that Draisaitl wasn't up higher.
Draisaitl didn't get a sniff on any of these questions. No way.
Yeah, and you wonder if that's kind of it's almost like the players are just kind of going off of last year as well. And you get that, and maybe Draisaitl sees his name show up on more lists next year. But, yeah.
If we're going to go around real quick, best forward, not named Connor McDavid. Let's keep it Oilers. Everybody going Draisaitl on this one?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Best defenseman. Victor Hedman got just under 38% of the vote. John Carlson at 21. Roman Josi at 9. Drew Doughty at 6. Brent Burns at 6. Any surprises there, gentlemen? Victor Hedman getting the nod there.
He's 100% the one defenseman I'd want to build my team around in the NHL right now. Like, he can anchor your top unit power play. He moves the puck, but he can be that mean physical presence as well. He's quite literally the perfect defenseman.
I guess just in the right age category too, right? Because there's a couple of the guys that you would assume could do, Doughty back in the day would have been the guy you want to go with. But I guess, they kind of aged their way out. So it surprised me that two guys were that far ahead of everybody else, though. Like, what was it, 39 and 28 or something like that?
37.88 for a Hedman, and John Carlson got 21.35.
Yeah, so you're talking like 60% of the vote going to those two guys. That was a little bit surprising. Hedman in first, no, that's not a big deal. But I just thought those two guys getting all the votes, that's kind of surprising to me.
I just think it's a popularity vote. It's the high school kind of mentality, right? The guys know who's going to be popular, and so some of them are probably just going to check the box of.
But Hedman's not having a Carlson type of year.
No, I agree completely. I just think it's Hedman's is the easy answer.
Are these guys writing names down 1, 2, 3? Or are they getting skill? Is it multiple choice?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
It's got to be multiple choice.
Well, I heard that the best women's team player, they were given 3 names plus other. So maybe they are given a list of a couple names.
They have to be, because there's no way they're all that Hedman's going to get that many, or just those 2 guys are going to get that many if everyone's just writing down their own. It has to be.
And maybe that plays into the fact that Draisaitl isn't on.
Exactly, and so it has to be. It has to be that like that.
Real quick around the horn, if we're bringing it back to the Edmonton Oilers. Best defenseman, Tyler.
Clefbaum. No explanation.
Clefbaum.
Ethan Bear.
I'm also going to give Ethan Bear my vote. I
Really?
just love not right now, but I just love everything that Ethan Bear does. So Clefbaum's the easy answer to me. Ethan Bear has done so much when nobody expected him to do it.
He had a great year. He had a great year and exceeded all expectations and everything, but he's just not what Claire Clefbaum is yet.
I don't know if you've been watching on these Sims recently, but he is by far our best digital defenseman right now.
And I very much look forward to when Clefbaum bears the Oilers' first pairing.
I agree with that.
This one was hilarious to me because it kind of puts credence into your guys' thought that you had a list of players to choose from. Best goalie, Carey Price, hands down, 41.55% of the vote. Andrei Vasilevsky got 17.09 at number 2. Marc-Andre Fleury at 3 with 8.93, and Sergei Bobrovsky at 5.63. Surprises there. There's no way. I love Carey Price. He's a great goalie, but this year?
In that group, though, in that grouping, that's why it's multiple choice. Look at the grouping.
Here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I think NHL players are, and I don't think this is a hot take by any means, but they're very big on respect, right? And for a while, Carey Price was widely regarded as the best goaltender in the game, and he kind of established himself at the top of that tier in a way that, Sidney Crosby sort of established himself at the top tier of best player in the world, right? And the way I'll bring this back to the Oilers is I think that there was just a lot of guys who didn't really quite know where to go with their vote, and we're just like, you know what? Carey Price has been so good for so long that he's our guy. And that's actually why I was surprised that McDavid got so much vote at the top of the best player one, because players do things like, Crosby's won the Olympics. He's won Stanley Cups. So I was really stunned to see McDavid get 66% in the same vote that Carey Price got 44% of the best goaltender, because I feel like players, it takes them a while to accept a new number one, and to see them do that with McDavid was cool. To see them do it with Price was not really that surprising.
I just think that and I think Bagmilk, you would probably agree that Vasilevsky is the pick as the best goalie.
He'd be my pick.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, Tyler, and I agree. I just think that there's definitely there's a gap there, right? Goaltending maybe is a little bit different. It has more of a respect value to it because there's the element of the team in front of them that also plays a factor. And so maybe people look at the Habs and they say, well, that team is just dog shit in front of him, and he's still a good goalie, whereas Vasilevsky has a pretty damn good team. He has the best defenseman in front of him, right? So,
next question. If you need a win, who is the player you want on your team? I wasn't really surprised to see Sidney Crosby get this one, 44.03. Crosby has won everything there is to win in hockey at this point, and I wasn't really surprised to see him. 44.03% of the vote. Connor McDavid at number 2 with 30.53%. Nathan McKinnon way down at 4.11. Patrice Bergeron at 3.33. Anybody surprised? If you have let's say it's a game 7, all the chips are on the table, money on the line. Who are you picking? Are you picking Sid or are you picking Connor?
Connor.
Real quick, coming in from Rick.
Connor.
Connor?
I think two options, I would pick Connor for sure. I would probably go with Ovechkin, honestly.
Tyler, the reaction on that one. I like that.
Why Ovi? I want to hear the explanation on Ovi.
We're talking about a game 7 situation where you need a goal scored?
Well, you just need to win game 7.
You need to win the game.
Yeah, I want Game 7 to be. I want a goal scorer. I want a guy that can snipe a shot home for me. And I got to get the puck.
Someone's got to give him the puck.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm not saying that Crosby doesn't do that, but I just think, or Connor, obviously, but I think I want a guy that can score a goal, and I guess I would say Connor in those two in that option for that reason.
The
I
reason
think Connor can score a goal easier.
The reason I pick Crosby is because when I think of like a big game right now, a Game 7, I'm assuming it's coming down to one goal either way. Either you're going to be up by one late or down by one late. If I need that big face-off one in the offensive zone, I want Crosby on the ice over Connor. If I want a big face-off one or the right defensive coverage in the final minute, I want Sid on the ice over Connor and over Ovi. I just think his complete game would bring you so much value. And I know it's, it might be a little old school, but I do still give him a ton of respect for the fact that he's won cups. He's won Olympic medals. And I think there still is some weight to kind of knowing how to win and the effect he could have even on the rest of your team, just having that kind of presence in your lineup in a winner-take-all, that kind of a captain in your lineup. So that's kind of the reason I go with Sid over McDavid. But I do think, you're splitting hairs, right? Because do you want the dynamic offensive guy who might be able to take over and get you 3 points? Or do you want Crosby, who could very well get you 3 points as well, but also brings you so much more to your lineup?
Yeah, I'm more on the side of the offense here. So that's why I went with Connor. I think he just creates more, and there's a lot more coming off his stick nowadays. Yet you were 100% right when it comes to the back half of the ice there in his own zone. I think you're definitely going to want a Crosby down there, but if you can get a Connor going, he can make up for it and come into the last couple minutes of the third period. It's not a 1-goal game, and you're up by a couple. You got to coast the rest of the way. So that's where I went with Connor.
I'm also going to, I'm going to go with Tyler on this one too. I would pick Sid, and the only reason I'm picking Crosby over Connor is experience. He's done it at every single level. And it's kind of like there is something to having a guy that's been everywhere, done everything, and kind of seen every scenario. So Connor will get there. He will get there. We're going to talk about Connor winning a cup a little bit later, but he will get there. But right now, I would pick Sid.
Especially if you get some more playoff experience, if you don't have.
Well, that's just it. The only reason he doesn't have anything else, the rest of Crosby has, is because he hasn't had the opportunity yet.
Well, that's just it. And first of all, that's partly Peter Chiarelli's fault. Second of all, that's fucking coronavirus's fault. We will get there with Connor. I have zero doubts about it in my mind. But on this day in 2020, I would go with Sid. Sticking with Crosby, the most complete player. Yeah. He was voted 45.56% of the vote, almost took half of it. Next up would be Patrice Bergeron at 25.44%. Alexander Barkov in third place at 7.50%, and Ryan O'Reilly at 5.33%. Any surprises there? Crosby, most complete player. I wasn't surprised with that one.
No, O'Reilly's a little high there. I don't think he really has the offense to be that high, does he?
Well, I think that would be the argument between O'Reilly and Bergeron as well.
So I think Bergeron has it. I mean, he's shown it before. He's done it in the playoffs. Maybe he's not exactly what he used to be, but I think it's because he's a lot more focused on the other end of the ice and allowing the rest of his team kind of take the charge offensively, and he's kind of settled back into being that proper older two-way player now.
Well, and he also doesn't have to, right? Because he's got Pasternak and Mark in him. So it's an element there too. I think with O'Reilly, it's just his. He kind of gets a lot of. I think he gets a lot of play from the Blues playoff run last year, and that clutch kind of performance as opposed to a guy like Bergeron where he's been doing it for years and years. But yeah, I agree. I think Crosby's the only guy out of those three where you're like, yeah, he can play both ends of the ice and give you the offense that the other two guys maybe don't give you.
One of my favorite questions on the list, and I'm just going to do two at one here. Best and worst trash talker. Brad Marchand got both. In second place on both questions as well was Drew Doughty. I just thought that was hilarious that some people were like, oh yeah, you're great at it. And then other people were just not so much.
Kachuk stuff in the box for Doughty.
It was probably the same answer though. Like saying he's good at it means you really hate him anyways. So when you're saying good and bad, you're talking about the same thing with some of these things.
Yeah, I'm sure that was actually a bit of a confusing one.
Marchand just has the ability to piss people off while also making them be like, oh, that was clever.
one of my favorite questions here, I'm just skipping a bunch. One of my favorite questions is, if you had the chance to watch any player, whether he is retired or a current player, who would you choose? Who would you choose? And running away with this one was Wayne Gretzky. No surprise there. But also, Connor McDavid was the only current player on the list. So we had two Oilers on this one. And then, obviously, we had Lemieux in there. And makes sense, right? But, like, what do you guys think about Connor being the only current player that people would be like, fuck yeah, I will pay to watch this guy?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's because he's still in that part of his career. Like, if we did this 10 years ago, then, Crosby gets that because he's still in the upswing of his career. Not to say Crosby's on the downswing, but, he's not getting any better. But so I think the spotlight's still on Connor, and he is that much better than everybody else. That is why he is in this category. But, those other guys, to be in the same category as those other guys, that's crazy.
I'm shocked that there's not more guys like Gordie Howe or Maurice Richard, like the guys that these people hear about, but maybe you don't see as much footage of just because their careers existed at a time when footage didn't exist. Right?
That's why I think they're not there.
Yeah, I'd love to see a Gordie Howe game play, right? Like, everybody talks about the Gordie Howe hat trick when he only has two of them. And, I'd love to just see the style of play that he had night in and night out.
Tyler, any surprise on having Wayne and Connor there as the two players that you'd most like to watch?
No, I think, again, I have a feeling with some of these questions, like we just talked about the trash talking one, I feel like some players don't put too much thought into this, so they just might have saw, like, who would you pay to watch? And they were like, oh, well, fucking obviously Connor, and didn't even give much thought to it. But I do think if you were to get them into a more, not honest spot, but at a spot where you could chat with a player about it a little bit, I'm sure there would be more love to some of the older guys like Gordie Howe, Maurice Richard, to kind of see how they did it and how the game was played back then. But I'm not particularly surprised that Connor and Wayne got the most. I mean, they're kind of the easy outs, right?
I also wasn't surprised to see Mario Lemieux on there, because if you're old enough to remember Mario Lemieux, he was fucking phenomenal to watch. He was a huge man with ridiculous hands and was an absolute beast. Just wrapping up this conversation, Rogers Place got some love. Best visiting dressing room, Rogers Place. And number 2, we complain about the ice at Rogers quite often, but it still got second best behind only the Bell Center in Montreal. So a little bit of love there for Rogers Place as well. Changing gears again, Wayne Gretzky said Connor McDavid will win a Stanley Cup. They did a one-on-one sit-down with each other presented by GQ Sports.
Was that not the weirdest interview I've ever seen? Like, everybody loved it, and I enjoyed listening to them talk, but, like, it felt like the two of them did not want to make eye contact with each other, not once.
Neither one of those guys are going to be the guy to lead a conversation, though.
Right, exactly. So
you need somebody. You need a
third guy.
You need a Duffy in there, somebody who's going to bring them along with a leash or something like that. Otherwise, it's just two guys that kind of like stare and bump into each other for fucking 10 minutes.
It was tough. It was like, what was the first time you met? I don't even remember. Like, man, like, I get it. Like, you're absolutely right, Rick. When you know the two players, when you know how they handle the media and how they deal with things, they're not the first guy to initiate a conversation.
They haven't had to be. Everyone's been talking to them since they were fucking 4.
It's true. It's true. And then it's like, I mean, Connor's story about talking to Gretzky for the first time, where he's in the car and I told my buddies to turn down the radio. And then afterwards we were like, that was Wayne Gretzky. And they were like, no way, that couldn't have been Wayne Gretzky. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Wayne Gretzky. It's like, oh man, this is painful to listen to, but I can't stop listening to it because it's two of the greatest players of all time.
What I want to talk about is Wayne Gretzky saying, you will win a cup. You're too good not to.
Hell yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about something like that? Do you think that adds undue pressure on Connor McDavid, or is it something that he kind of expects for himself anyway?
I think it's impossible for Connor to feel pressure from something like that. I think he already knows that there's pressure for him to win a Stanley Cup and that he's probably going to find a way to get it done at some point in his career. So I just kind of thought it was a cool exchange. It was a cool little headline at a time where we don't have very many cool headlines.
Yeah, I think Gretzky has been I won't say guilty, but he's been drawn into the comparisons between him and Connor since Connor was 15 and 16 years old. And so I think Connor's, well-tuned in being able to handle that kind of comparison and that kind of pressure. And obviously Wayne Gretzky has 4 Stanley Cup rings. And Connor, the expectation is that Connor will have, as many, if not more, at some point. You hope it's fucking with the Edmonton Oilers. Thanks, Peter Chiarelli. But yeah, it's. I don't think it adds anything to the kid. I think he knows that being the best player in the league comes with a heavy crown. So yeah,
it's full expectation that that's exactly what he expects, anyways. But at the same time, as much as there is a lot of meaning behind what he said, it's also just cliche. Like every older guy is going to tell the next younger guy, "No, you're going to win a cup. I can see it. You're good enough." That's blah blah blah. That's just that's just the respect level, and that's just the cliche talk they use all the time.
Sticking with Wayne Gretzky, obviously there's no hockey on right now, so a lot of the content that we've been posting at Oilers Nation is historical stuff. So I've been writing a lot about Wayne breaking records, and some of the records that Wayne Gretzky has on his resume are absolutely ridiculous. So I was just curious if you guys have one of his that is a favorite for you, one that you think is just completely ridiculous, one that you think is never going to be touched, or I guess just in general, what is the most impressive Wayne Gretzky record in your opinion? Mine, I'll start off because I'm looking at a list here. 92 goals in a single season is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that again. Nobody's going to get close. Nobody's going to be in the ballpark. Another one that I also think is ridiculous is he was the fastest player ever to get to 1,000 points. He also holds second place for that record from 1,000 to 2,000. He is the second fastest player to get 1,000 points as well. That is completely bananas. I turn this over to you. Favorite Gretzky record or one that impresses you the most?
Mine is for sure 50 goals in 39 games. That's just, that's a benchmark I don't know. I don't want to say it'll never be matched, but other than making the nets bigger or making the goalies be smaller, I don't think it'll ever happen again. So it's 39 goals in 50 games. It was a different era, I know, but that's just absolutely insane.
Well, Dan, I've got an idea for you, Dan. Maybe I missed last week's podcast because they're doing siding on my townhouse, and all you could hear is banging. So my thought for getting 50 goals in 39 games is, what if we make goalies not wear masks? Like the old school. They're not getting in the way of things if you have to block with your face.
Well, a league that's worried about CTE, I don't know if that's going to fly. But,
all right, so we're workshopping. We're workshopping this, but I'm just tabling some ideas.
Leather face masks. There you go.
The number one shootout or breakaway move would be the fake slap shot, because goalies would just be scared shitless of getting a clapper to the teeth.
You just put Shea Weber up as your first shooter just to come out and rattle the goalie.
100% of the time, you're doing the clapper from the hash marks. 100% of the time.
Yeah, wherever it goes.
Back to Gretzky records. Rick or Tyler, you got one that kind of sticks out for you as being the most impressive or just the most ridiculous in general?
I think when he retired, did he not have 61 records?
Which in itself was a record.
Yeah, well, yeah, no shit, by a fuck ton. That one has to be it. He has so many records. It's absolutely ridiculous. And there's going to 100 years from now, he's going to lose what, 4 or 5 maybe?
Yeah, he's got a lot.
It was 61. I'm fairly certain when he retired. I don't know exactly what it is nowadays, but I'm telling you, man, it's got to be at least 55.
There's 25 of them that are untouchable.
Or at least.
Yeah.
At least, man. He's done some stupid things out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think just in the whole entirety of how many he has and how many he'll have. Obviously, we don't know what the end is, but in 100 years and even 200 years from now, it's crazy.
Tyler?
50 and 39 is just nuts. Like, players can hardly anybody gets to 50 and 82 right now. So I can't imagine a player doing it in 39 and hitting the 200 point mark as well. Like to average that many points per game, it's just absurd. So I'm going to say those two.
And 50 and 39, he scored 9 goals in his final 2 games. He scored 4 goals in game 38 and 5 goals in game 39.
The game against Philadelphia was an absolute gong show, though.
Yeah, they just showed it.
That one was just like it was like Philly was trying to be a part of the record books.
Well, hey, it was a different time back then, and the goalies might not have been all that great, but the players weren't as skilled as they are nowadays either.
As always, if you're listening to this, chime in. We want to know your favorite Gretzky records. ON Radio Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. Wrapping up this week's episode, we are going to go to Oodle Noodle's Hot and Cold Performers of the Week. We are going to stick with our own personal lives since there's nothing going on. Tyler, get your buttons ready.
Yep.
Oodlenoodle.ca. They are available for delivery. They are also offering 15% off on all takeout orders. So you can call in or you can order at the till. You will get 15% off at all 13 locations. Oodlenoodle.ca. Get contact-free delivery through skipthedishes.ca. Nation Dan, I'm going to start with you. As always, we start with our veggies. The cold performer of the week, as brought to you by Oodle Noodle. Nation Dan.
The cold performer of the week is myself, and it's the amount of times that I've stubbed my toe and legs in the last week. I don't know. It's like I haven't lived in this house for very long, and I've forgotten where everything is placed. I put my foot into Penn's little cage. I put my foot into that like 3 times in the last week. It's absolutely ridiculous. My legs are cut to shit. It's a nonsense injury list that I'm on right now. So myself, cold performer of the week.
If you are a sporting goods store, perhaps let's get Nation Dan some of those soccer shin pads. Rick, your cold performer of the week brought to you by Oodle Noodle.
Well, if I got to pick one, I think I got to go with these government websites in which you're supposed to get all your EI and fun stuff from. I understand there's a whole lot of people going at once, but I'll tell you what, I've heard a lot of horror stories.
This is a delicate tap dance that I love.
Tyler Yaremchuk, your cold performer of the week, brought to you by Oodle Noodle.
I'm going to say people who aren't tipping their drivers. We talked about this a couple minutes ago. To me, it's just like, man, if you are, one, not prepared enough or too lazy to cook your own meals, and if you want the luxury of having someone bring a hot meal to your door, fucking tip the person who is doing what you don't want to do or possibly can't do, which is go outside. Like, if you ordered, let's say, from Oodle Noodle, and your bill is $25, you're going to tip them 5% on that. Just tip them $15. That's like an extra $1.50. And I'm sure if that driver got an extra $1.50 on every fucking route they did, they'd have a nice chunk of change for going out and exposing themselves to the coronavirus, man. Like, these guys are literally touching doors and shit, and your cheap ass won't give them an extra $1.50. So when it comes
neck veins.
When it comes to people not tipping their drivers,
they are just fucking ass right now.
Exactly. You couldn't have said it better myself. Tip your drivers at skipthedishes.ca. My Oodle Noodle cold performer of the week is going to be all of our alcohol tolerance. I was thinking about the weekend that we were supposed to have.
Cold performer?
Cold performer of the week is going to be our alcohol tolerance, and I'll tell you why. Because I was thinking about the weekend we were supposed to have. Tonight we were supposed to have a little get-together at the Pint. We are not able to do that. Tomorrow, we were supposed to go down to Calgary on the last Nation bus trip of the year, close out the season with the boys. That is a big, big drinking shift right there. We, again, are not able to do that. So my point here is that there's going to be a lot of us, myself included, that come out of this quarantine period not having drank a whole lot. And I'm going to go back to the Pint, hit up the dance floor, drinking like I used to could, and all of a sudden Rick's going to be dragging me out the back door because all of a sudden I can't handle tea times like I once could. So my alcohol tolerance is the cold performer of the week.
Oh.
Oh, that's cold.
Getting to our dessert. Yeah, we've only been doing this bit for months. The hot performer of the week, I'm going to start with Rick, your Oodle Noodle hot performer of the week.
Well, I feel like I'm stealing a little bit from Tyler on this one, but it's going to go to all the drivers and the restaurants around town that are stepping up and feeding us when nobody wants to go to the grocery stores.
Put some respect on my name.
Yeah.
Right? Put some respect on that name and Taylor Hall's name. Tyler Yaremchuk, your Oodle Noodle hot performer of the week.
My hot performer of the week, I'm going to give some love to myself, in specific, my immune system, who has kept me nice and healthy here over the last few weeks. I'm worried about catching the common cold right now. That's my big, obviously the COVID-19 fears are real, but in my head, I keep being like, if I catch even the common cold, that is going to fuck me up so hard mentally. And also that I could single-handedly shut down my place of employment. If one of us gets sick at the radio station, it more or less has to shut down. So my biggest fear right now is getting the common cold or something a little bit more basic and not as life-threatening as COVID, and having to be the bearer of bad news that calls my boss and is like, hey, yeah, we got to shut shit down now. So shout out to my my immune system, which has been
cash money.
Nation Dan, your Oodle Noodle hot performer of the week.
Well, it's pretty selfish, but it's for everybody around the network that is still performing and still having to put out content. It's the Bag Milks, it's the Zach Langs, it's the Coovs, it's the Yaremchucks of the world. You guys are out there. I know that this isn't easy for anybody. We're sitting here every day now watching big news organizations laying off people. We watch, and it's tough for everyone. And I know that we've had to do some changes here at the network too. But I want to give a shout out to everybody that's out there producing the content so that the lights can fucking stay on, so that we have a place to come back to when this world becomes a little bit more normal again. So shout out to the content producers around the network still producing the content.
That's hot.
I probably should let you go last, because what I've got to say now sounds really stupid in comparison.
That's the way this goes. Let's hear it. This is going to be really good now.
My Oodle Noodle hot performer of the week is me and my willpower for not eating as many pizzas as I did last week. Last week, I ate 4 pizzas. I went full Papa John last week. I ate 4 frozen pizzas. This week, I have not had one. I've mixed in salads. I've had chicken wraps. I'm trying to be the picture of health. I don't want to come out of this thing gaining the COVID-19, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a vote for the hot performer of the week.
It's chicken. It's fried chicken. I like fried chicken.
And for those of the listeners that don't know, this is actually Bag Milk's birthday, so we wanted to give a big shout out to Bag Milk.
Happy birthday!
Love to go to the pint with you tonight, buddy. Don't sing it, Tyler. We'll have to pay for it.
Actually, I think that's royalty free now. I'm pretty sure Happy Birthday is now royalty free.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Dan. It is my birthday. Thank you very much to my parents for having unprotected sex. It was in Banff. They told me about it. I don't know why they told me about it, but they did. So that is where I was conceived, was in Banff on my dad's lunch break from a work trip. I also want to end off this week's podcast. It was very specific and odd, and imagine my face when my mom told me the story. I didn't.
The Arby's were way different back then.
Oh, God bless Arby's. And I heard that Arby's. I still haven't seen it in my hood. I heard that Arby's is slowly rolling on to skipthedishes.ca, so I am waiting patiently for that. That ties in another sponsor as well. But I want to talk about Nation Happy Hour. We're kicking off Nation Happy Hour today. Today is Friday at 4:30 p.m. Basically, all it is I'm going to go live on the Nation's Instagram account. We're going to crack open a fresh Nation beer. If you've got one, you're welcome to join me. If you don't, you're welcome to join me. We're looking to have a cocktail, just talk to some people, connect with the community, check in on how everybody's doing, and just have a little bit of a conversation. So 4:30 p.m. today, Friday. We're going to do these a lot. So today we'll be the
bringing
first one.
The tequila?
We can bring tequila. I got tea times.
Well, it is the birthday.
It is my birthday. Generally, we would be having a lot of tequilas together. Rick, I know we missed your birthday. I had a tequila in your honor. 4:30 p.m. Mountain Nation Happy Hour. We're gonna try and do that as a thank you to everybody for selling out Nation beer in a matter of days, which is ridiculous. So thank you guys to everybody for listening. If you are listening, go on iTunes, everywhere, download, subscribe, rate us, let us know how we're doing, give us feedback, give us questions, give us everything to continue doing these podcasts well into the quarantine period. Gentlemen, is there anything else you have to say?
I love you.
I love you too, buddy.
Shout out Damien.
Best wish.
Everybody
Everybody stay inside. I want to go back to work.
God bless. Do I want to go back to Rick's work as well? That wraps it for episode 80 of Oilers Nation Radio. Thank you to Sherwood Ford the Giant. Thank you to skipthedishes.ca, and thank you to Oodle Noodle for making it all possible. And thank you to all of you for listening. Gentlemen, I look forward to seeing your faces again next Friday. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media to stay up to date and never miss a podcast.